Welcome to Human Anatomy and Physiology. This is going to be a flipped course in the fact that you're going to watch these notes at home as your homework. In class, you'll do the classwork, practice it, where I'll be able to help you and peers will be able to help you. We can iron out the wrinkles. You're taking responsibility for your learning instead of me passively teaching you in class. So, why take this course? Probably because you live in your own body, and it's pretty important to know about your own body. So the syllabus and expectations, hopefully we've gone over these on day one, so you understand those. Cats. Of course. We don't have cats this year. They're on limited supply. So unfortunately, we are without cats, but we still have hearts and kidneys and eyeballs. So we'll still do some dissections. Safety contracts and information. Hopefully you've already signed your safety contract. You cannot participate in a lab until you have a safety contract on file with me. Textbooks are optional. Unfortunately, we don't have enough textbooks for the people we have. Fortunately, people have told me that my PowerPoint notes and what we do in class, the labs, are really all they need to know for the tests anyway, which is true. But if you'd like a textbook, it goes into more detail. You can read it at your leisure. If you want one, check out Keep It Home. Go for it. They're $189 last I knew to replace, so don't damage them. What is anatomy? Anatomy is simply parts, the body parts. Study the structure and components and their relationship to each other. This YouTube up here is an old one. That was last year's. I forgot to take that out. Do not go to that one. I've got a new link I'm going to put in on the PowerPoint notes on my website, which hopefully is how you got here. So you can go to that one if you'd like to hear last year's. Not much different. Systemic anatomy is studying by the body systems. And that's pretty much how I take it. That's what we do in high school. It's common for introductory courses. So examples of systems are the circulatory, nervous, skeletal, muscular. We will touch upon the circulatory with the heart, but we won't go into details of all the different veins and venules and capillaries. The nervous system, thank goodness a lot of people take psychology because we don't have enough time to teach that. But I do throw some nervous system in. I integrate it in with other systems. Regional anatomy is more how they do it in med school. They go by the regions, the thoracic region, which is your chest cavity, the abdominal region. So those are all studied simultaneously. And like I say, medical schools, dental schools use this. Surface anatomy is basically external features. Bony structures serve as landmarks for deeper structures. Chiropractors are good at this. What is physiology? Physiology begins with an F, just like function does. Seriously, I don't know why the PH, why we just don't spell it with an F, make phonics a lot easier. Physiology is the function of the body. Physiology, function, anatomy, parts. So, what is this thing called life? 6 characteristics of life. We have to metabolize. We're organized. From the cells on up, organelles make up cells. Cells make up tissues. You'll know all that. We respond. We grow, and we differentiate. And we develop. Differentiation, development, some people can lump those together, but differentiation means when your mother and father got together and the sperm met the ova, you became 2 cells, then 4, then 8, then 16, and somehow in there, nerves started differentiating from everything else. The blood cells became different. Your body is amazing. Levels of organization in living things. Again, the organelles make up cells. Cells make up tissues. Tissues make up organs. Organs make up organ systems. And organ systems make up you, the organism. That could be a test question. So yes, everything could be a test question, but know these in order. It just makes sense, and throughout the year, it'll help make more sense of how you work as you go deeper into understanding how your body works. So the body systems. Lymph system, we don't teach because we don't have time. Integumentary, we do teach. That's why I highlighted it in red here. Integumentary is the skin. Okay, the skeletal system, your bones. Muscular, muscles. Cardiovascular, your heart. Respiratory is the lungs. The nervous system, like I said, we don't get into. Reproductive system used to do it before we had Wacky Wednesdays, which took away 2 weeks of our season. Endocrine system, we'll touch upon that, but that's the hormones. Digestive system, urinary excretory system. So those are the systems we teach in red. You have big health issue project. It is your big project for the first semester. Here's some topics which I've listed here. There's some other ones you can choose, like shoes. I've had people do it on shoes. What type of shoes are best for your body, you know? But you're going to find an issue is something that has two sides, pros and cons, and you're going to research it. So you're going to investigate, you're going to evaluate, you're going to do primary research, which is your own questionnaires. You're going to do secondary research, which is to find at least 6 good printed documents of people, reputable sources, not Wikipedia, but .edu or Mayo Clinic or something that has good information out there. And you're going to look at both sides of the issue. You're going to choose what you finally think is the right, come to conclusion basically, and you're going to take an action. It ends with an action, whether it's writing a letter to an editor to get published in the newspaper so people can see what you've done, whether it's writing a big, petition to the school board. But you'll do that, and that's a big thing. Sign up for Remind. I send out, as other teachers do, a remind. It's a blast. Dial 81010, text @DennerHap, Human Anatomy Physiology, and you'll get my reminds, which remind you your issue question is due next week. Your homework is due. Well, there's not much homework in here because this and the flipped classroom is pretty much the homework. The Remind does have a privacy policy. You can click on that. Legally, I show this so you understand you're not going to be sharing your email with everyone. Life is good. Summer's over, though, so we move on. Body cavities. Not that kind. Not teeth. Not like meth mouth there. But the thoracic cavity is surrounded by the rib cage and the diaphragm. The diaphragm is inferior. The rib cage surrounds it on the lateral sides and anteriorly and posteriorly, whereas your clavicular region up top serves as the superior region. The mediastinum divides the thoracic cavity. It contains the heart, the thymus, the trachea, and the esophagus. Now, the nice thing about the mediastinum is if one side of the lungs collapses because it lost pressure, the other lung won't collapse because it's divided by the mediastinum. Media, middle, stinum, kind of sounds like sternum. Yeah, it's right under your sternum. Thick sternum helps protect your heart to an extent. Abdominal cavity is your abdomen. Now notice your stomach is within the abdominal cavity. Don't say my stomach. If your stomach hurts, it's truly your stomach hurting. But if you've got a pain in your abdominal cavity, it could be your stomach, your liver, your appendix, your intestines. You could have gas. Notice the liver does take up a large section of your abdominal cavity. This actually shows the abdominal pelvic cavity because it goes down in the pelvis. The pelvic cavity itself contains the urinary bladder, parts of the large intestine, and your internal reproductive organs. This nice diagram, I like it because it shows the pictures of the mediastinum, shows them in color, the thoracic cavity, abdominal pelvic cavity. Whoa, what covers those body cavities? Not a barrel. They're called serous membranes. Serous membranes all have different names. They line the cavities. Mainly, they reduce friction. Okay, around your lungs are constantly breathing in and out. The pleural membranes, pleura refers to lungs, but you can also think plural, like P-L-U-R-A-L, like in English, means more than one. Hey, you got 2 lungs, plural. So as you breathe in, breathe out, these are a double-folded membrane with a tiny bit of like WD-40 basically inside that keeps them from getting friction, so they just slide real easily. Your parietal part of your membrane is the part touching the outer parts of the body. The visceral part touches the organ itself. Viscera is organs. So inner membrane touching the organs is visceral. And this is from the textbook. It basically shows if your fist were the heart, the balloon was the pericardium. Pericardium is the serous membrane surrounding the heart. The inner part of the balloon touching the heart would be the visceral pericardium. The outer part would be the parietal pericardium, parietal touching the body. In between that air would be the fluid. They just call it the serous fluid, or could be the pericardial fluid. Honestly, the membranes pretty much touch with that fluid just holding them together in between. But this is a nice visual to help you understand. There's two membranes. Three types of serous. I've talked about the pericardium and the pleura. I haven't talked about the peritoneum yet. Your peritoneum surrounds your intestines in the abdominal cavity. Behind the peritoneum lie your kidneys. They are behind, they're a throwback behind the peritoneum, therefore they're called retroperitoneum. So para means around, cardium, heart. Pleura, lungs, peritoneum, intestines. Pericardial membrane surrounds the heart. I like this diagram. You can see if you stuck a needle through it, you go through the parietal pericardium, through the parietal fluid, pericardial fluid, through the visceral pericardium, through the myocardium, the heart tissue. On the other side, you come out through the visceral pericardium, then the pericardial fluid, and then through the parietal pericardium and back out again. We're not going to stick a needle through your heart, but if we did, that would be the path. Understand stuff like that. When I teach you this, know it so you can say on a test question, I said, if I stick a needle through your heart, name all the layers in order. An example of how this class rolls. Pleural membrane. Again, I like this diagram. It shows how you get the parietal pleura surrounding, touching the cavity. The visceral pleura touches the lungs, and in between you have that pleural fluid, which really just kind of holds the two membranes together and keeps them flowing very freely, like I say, WD-40 or oil. Makes it frictionless. You can see your lungs rest upon your diaphragm. Right below that diaphragm, yes, your stomach. So when you eat a big meal, the diaphragm can't depress as much to open up the cavity for the lungs to breathe. That's why it's harder to breathe when you're full. That type of stuff is a takeaway I'd like you to have in anatomy too, to understand the notes, to understand them. So if I ask you a question on the test, why is it harder to breathe after a full meal? You look in your mind's eye and see this diagram and say, oh wow, the diaphragm goes up, the stomach's under it. It keeps the diaphragm from fully contracting. Peritoneal membrane surrounds the abdominal pelvic cavity. And like I say, you can see the kidneys are retroperitoneal, right behind the peritoneum. Here's a retroperitoneal organ down below your urinary bladder. Mesentery is a connective tissue which connects your organs. It connects the visceral peritoneum and the parietal peritoneum and the organs to your spine and to the, basically keeps everything in order inside there. So the little old men who have look like the little pregnant belly sticking out, that dorsal mesentery, dorsal is behind, has stretched over time, and their ab muscles have gotten weaker, so their intestines just kind of slouch out there. Retroperitoneal, hey, there it is, big, bold, and underlined. Could be a test question, fill in the blank. So yes, the kidney, adrenal gland, add on top of renal means kidney. Yeah, the adrenal gland sits right on top of your kidney there. And your duodenum, first 12 inches or so of your small intestine, and your bladder all sit outside the peritoneum. A transverse section of the abdomen. Transverse means basically a cross section. So if someone took a sword and cut you in half as you're standing up, you're looking down, you can see the spinal cord is in the back, and the peritoneum is this green membrane lining everything, and you can see the retroperitoneal kidneys are behind the peritoneum, right, protected by some ribs and the spinal cord. Pleural and peritoneal pericardial cavities. Wow, this would be a good test question. For example, if I stick a lung through the heart and it ends up in the middle, or through the outside of the ribs and ends up in the heart, what layers in order would it go through? Well, let's try it. First, it's going to go through the ribs to hit the parietal pleural membrane. That is the outside of the lungs. Then it's going to go through the pleural fluid to the visceral pleura membrane into the lungs. Boom. Coming out the other side of the lung is going to